Okay, we're live, episode 81 of Coffee with Craner. And today I'm joined by Dan Crosby. He's a very well known, successful entrepreneur in the Windsor region. He's founded multiple businesses, including Canadian Protein, Coachwood Capital, Synergy Private Label, Pure Fusion Cannabis, Luxus VIP Rentals, and most recently, Coachwood Golf and Country Club, which was also the former Fox Glen Golf Course in Amherstburg. And being a proud Amherstburg resident, this is a cool topic to talk about. And
Awesome.
Dan, thanks for making the time tonight.
I appreciate it. Appreciate you having me.
So we're in Windsor, and I know you're in Chicago, I believe, doing some
Yeah.
work on your Lambo.
hmm
But where in Windsor is your favorite place to get coffee?
So I'm actually not like a big coffee guy. I'm more like a pre-workout kind of guy. But if I would have to pick, I'd have to say like my kitchen.
I get
I
you.
got a nice little espresso machine. Um, or honestly, uh, one day I was in the golf course and somebody was like, "Hey, you want a coffee or whatever?" We just had this new guy come in, bring his new order of coffee, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll have a coffee." And I tried it black, and it was so good. It was the best coffee outside of like say the custom kind of blend that I use at home. I got to be biased and say my golf course.
There you go. Now, because you mentioned pre-workout and stuff like that, I want to get on the topic of Canadian Protein, which
Okay.
many people who work out know about. In
hmm
2011, you started the company. How did this all happen?
Yeah, so officially Canadian Protein started in 2011, but I started the supplement stuff back in like or 2007, 2008. The way that it started was essentially from, um, I guess, like personal necessity.
Hmm.
I started by, I started working out late high school and, early 20s, and I started getting a little more serious into it a little bit, maybe, 21, 22. And I started, I would always order from the US. Always order product, and I didn't want really like the flash and bang type of products that, people were typically getting, like the Muscle Tech and stuff like that. It was all kind of like a bunch of hype and not really, the basics. I wanted the basics, and you couldn't really find like the basics around in even Canada. There was a
Yeah.
couple little guys around in Canada, but I was like, you know what? I can't find what I want. I'm going to go ahead and start my own thing, and I'm probably not going to be the only one that wants this type of product and this type of business model. And lo and behold, that's how the whole kind of Canadian Protein started. It was originally called True Supplements, and so it just ended up kind of over the next couple of years, I ended up changing it over to Canadian Protein.
Now, was True Supplements and Canadian Protein really like the catalyst for your entrepreneur, career, or was there
Yeah,
something else earlier on that kick started it?
yeah. So I ended up getting into real estate and supplements right around the same time. But what I ended up doing really early on was I ended up buying a package of 15 condos in the Lagoyo building on Riverside Drive. And I ended up, I dropped out of school. I didn't know what else to do. I just saw, I was always interested in real estate. I would actually like, walk at the river or park at the river or whatever, and like look across at Detroit and like see all these buildings. And I was always thinking like, man, one day I'm going to own something like that, or, own a portfolio with big buildings like that. And so then I ended up buying a package of condos in the Lagoyo building. And what ended up happening was, this was like, now this is when Windsor was like, you're probably too young to remember, but back in 2007, 2008, 2009, that's when like the financial crisis happened. And what ended up happening uh, was, even though the banking system in Canada was stronger than the US and more, I guess, stringent, the automotive sector took a real hit in Windsor, and probably among other things, but predominantly probably the automotive market. And Windsor just it was like a ghost town. Everybody was leaving. So it was a really tough point in Windsor for especially even real estate. So that's when I actually got into the real estate market and into the supplement market. So I started my two main things like in the worst possible economic times that our city and really, in the I guess late historical I guess crisis that's taken place like in our time in our lifetime in 2008. And so I ended up starting that. I bought the 15 condos. I rehabbed them all, the majority of them myself, the ones I needed. Rehabbing, you couldn't, like right now in the real estate market, it's pretty easy to be successful. So there was no appreciation in Windsor for years. And the only way to get appreciation and even a little bit or increase value was to, essentially, put some sweat equity in and do some sort of rehab. And that's what I did. So I ended up rehabbing a few units. I ended up pulling the equity out, and I had already started the supplement company, but I needed machinery. So I used the equity that I pulled from the units that I ended up doing like a light rehab on. I ended up pulling the equity out of that and bought some machinery for the supplement company. And then I got a unit to make the stuff in, and that's how it all started. So I bought a blender. I think the first piece of equipment that I bought was like a 25 cubic foot blender, something like that. Yeah. So mix all the protein. Yeah.
What has the progress been with Canadian protein since? Like, obviously you're not just running on the one blender.
No, we've got three. So we've got a pretty big blender that, fit like a pretty, maybe like an eco type of car in it. And we've got a medium sized blender, and I still have that same blender that I bought back then.
And I believe your distribution center, your processing facility is still in Windsor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We started in Windsor, and it's right off Lausanne. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, going in real estate investing, and we talked about the recession 2008, and then now the market's so hot. Do you think it's possible for, let's say, someone young like me, or going into their 30s or 40s, to really get into this market in real estate investing? Is it still possible, do you believe?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's no wrong time to get into real estate investing, to be honest with you. I think what a lot of people don't do is I don't think that they invest for what's happening now. I think a lot of people invest based off of poor information that they hear, based off of like projections. And I think that's a very poor choice. And the reason why I think that's a very poor choice is because nobody actually has a crystal ball, and nobody can actually, if you go and look at like the lead economists in the industry, they've been wrong they've been wrong more times than right. And the only ones that really actually even get it right, they might just even get it right just on accident. So I actually don't do my investing based off of what I think might happen in the future, because I don't know. If I would have had my best guess, I would have thought the housing market would have tanked in the first part of COVID, but it didn't. It increased like dramatically. That's actually when I bought the most amount of real estate in a chunk of time that I ever did in my life, was like for the first 6 months of COVID popping off. So I buy for now. I buy it if it's a good deal now and it works. What I do in order to mitigate risk is I build in a little bit of I pad things. So if I, for example, go back in history and I say, okay, well, say for example in 2008 when the real estate market crashed in the US, what was the average overall national crash that happened? The overall national reduction in value of real estate values in 2008, when that whole financial crisis happened, or the mortgage crisis, was only 8% across the entire country. That's not a lot. So the reason why certain places got hit more than others was a lot of like vacation areas, like Florida, or like in Key West, stuff like that, right? Where people weren't buying vacations homes anymore. People weren't vacationing anymore. Even they didn't have the same amount of disposable income. They weren't buying their second home. So in terms of like buying based off of future predictions, I never do that. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, so I don't do that. And to be honest with you, I'm happy I never have done that, because in the end, historically speaking and statistically speaking, people lose more money not pulling the trigger than pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
From sheer opportunity cost. So, in the end, even if you buy right now and say, for example, the market starts to slow or whatever, there's a little bit of a decline, the trajectory for real estate is always on an increase. So I'm not really worried about it, to be honest with you. Yeah. And honestly, like if there's a downturn in the market, good. I hope everybody gets scared because I'm going to just buy more stuff. Like that's how I think that people have a really jaded mentality when it comes to like the real estate market. It's really weird, man. Like because a lot of people are like waiting for this crash to happen right now in this whole crisis, but they'll be too scared to buy anything when it actually does happen, which I don't actually think it will, to be quite honest. But in the event it does, the event that they're waiting for, they're going to be too scared to do it. If that even happens. So they're too scared now. People are scared at this point. People don't want to do anything right now. And the market's only moved a little bit. The rates have only shifted like, a half a point. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And for somebody like me, going through post-secondary education, purchasing an income property was something that I was interested, and I'm still interested in doing. What would be your advice to, people like me, fresh out of university or in university? How do we work towards that goal of being able to buy into real estate?
I guess it depends on what you have available to you. I mean, I always advise people to work as much as you can, so that you can raise as much capital as you can. I just made a video on this actually on my channel not too long ago, but I always advise people to work as much as you can so you can raise as much capital as you can, so that when an opportunity presents itself, you can capitalize on that opportunity. That's the first step. And then if you don't have enough capital and you still want to get into home ownership or semi.
Oh, you cut out a bit, Dan. I don't know if you could still hear me. I can hear you now. Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, we got you on. Yeah, give me a sec here. Get me off that.
Just turn off your disconnected from your truck.
Sorry, buddy. 1 sec.
No worries. Life of an entrepreneur on the road.
All right, there we go.
There we go.
Better?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. So you were saying?
Yeah, so I would if you don't have enough capital or you haven't been able to raise enough capital yourself, I would take advantage of that first time home buyer reduction in the amount of down payment that you have to put down. I think it's like 5%, something like that. I would take advantage of that, and then I would buy something that required a light rehab, and then after a year or two living in it, pop it back on the market, and then move on and do the exact same thing, like rinse and repeat. That's what I would do if I had to do it all over again. Yeah, if I had to do it all over again, I didn't do that when I was coming up. I went right to rentals, but if I was in a scenario where I didn't have the capital to invest right off the bat, what I would do is I would do that. I think you guys call it house hacking, I believe, all you youngsters. Yeah.
No, I haven't heard of the house hacking thing, but I imagine it is a thing.
Yeah. That's what I would do.
Now, going into another interesting real estate venture was you purchasing Fox Glen Golf Club and turning it into Coachwood Golf and Country Club. What made you really decide to purchase a golf course, and what plans do you have in store for this facility?
Yeah, so what I'm obviously I'm in real estate, right? So at the end of the day, it's 130 acres. I mean, I'll give you an example of why I like that deal. I ended up selling farmland that I owned for the same acreage price or value as what I pretty much bought the golf course from or for, which is, and it's a viable business, right? It's a viable business that can, turn an income for the time being, if in the event, down the road, needs to pivot and I need to do something else with it or whatever. But that's not in the cards right now. But there's just a lot of value there. Even the buildings alone were worth, X amount of dollars, and I felt like I was getting a discount, and it was also a scenario where it's a dying business, it's a legacy business, and I feel like I've gotten to the point where I feel I've done well in certain industries, and I feel like the golf industry, if I could position it in a way and leverage what I've learned through e-commerce, through real estate, through technology, and bring those things into a business that's typically run by, older demographics that really don't understand technology all that well. I found that really exciting, and that's what we're really doing. So to make this a better business and a more successful business and even run better, we're introducing all kinds of technology. I'm leveraging the team that I have in place to run, e-commerce, to run, the real estate company where I've got a media division that we're going to be leveraging. So I have a lot of tools in my toolbox to be able to make the golf industry, or at least this course, kind of like exciting again. We're introducing certain things on the course. It's something that I felt was like almost like a dying business, and a business that was just not run very well typically. A lot of golf courses typically don't really make any money. So I took this on almost kind of like a challenge to see, like, okay, well, I've done well in certain other businesses and other industries. I'm gonna see if I can, position this in such a way that I can turn this business around, which is like a very hard business. Running a golf course is a very tough business. You have hospitality, you have, grass alone is difficult in this area. Like, so when you, and then you also have, a really, I guess, demanding demographic to deal with. Golfers are demanding. And I feel like if we can conquer this world, I don't feel like there's a lot of other things that I can't do. So I took this as like a challenge. It was like a challenge for me. And
at the end of the day, I guess, real estate is appreciating in value.
Yeah.
You'll make your money back and then some, right? If you do decide to sell. Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, land is land, and it's not, eventually it's still on that trajectory. It's still on that upward trajectory. So you can't lose.
No, it's really cool. And what I found interesting is another business you have, Coachwood Capital. For those listening, how does this business work? I know a lot about it, but I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, so Coachwood Capital started from again, same thing as the supplement company started from. It was never actually supposed to be something where I could take on investors. It was never supposed to be that. It ended up coming to fruition based off of my desire to own American property, and also my desire to still obtain the same type of returns as I was used to before this whole wild real estate market started popping off. So Coachwood Capital allows, I built out the logistics to allow Canadians to invest in American large-scale residential real estate alongside with me. So I'm an investor on all of them as well. And so like I said, I built the roads to allow Canadians, the legal and accounting roads, to allow Canadians to invest in cash flowing, high return properties in the US. So,
as one of your investors, what kind of money do they put in to get on board with you in the property?
Yeah, so typically we require a minimum of $25,000, the $25,000 will get you, typically we go in at a 75, 25 LTV. It might be a little bit lower. Sometimes maybe it'll float somewhere in between 65 and 75 percent LTV. But the investment is not a typical cash investment. It's not. It's 25, 20. Say for example, if you're coming in at a 75, 25 LTV, a $25,000 investment will get you $100,000 worth of property. So it's so you're also leveraging your capital, which is great too. And there's no requirements. The requirements are either number one, you're an accredited investor, or number two, your friends, family, business associate, or I know you somehow. So it allows people that wouldn't typically qualify for, being able to invest in, even say an average Windsor, Ontario property, which is like probably got to be running at least $500,000 now. And you might need $100K down, right? Mm-hmm. Where if you don't have that amount of capital, you can invest alongside with me and Coachwood Capital, for something like $25,000 and lever up your capital and get in on these awesome cash flowing properties. And this is also something that I own. I go in on all these properties myself as well. So I have to be the largest investor on all of these properties. So it's not like I'm just kind of taking people's money and putting them in these properties and forgetting about it. I'm the largest, shareholder in all of these businesses and properties.
No, it's cool. And I'm glad it, allows, people that are just starting out or have, limited capital available to really transition into real estate, use this as an opportunity to get into the market, and hopefully, from your cash flows, they can purchase their own property down the road. Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And now really to just package everything up, all the businesses you've started, there's countless that I mentioned: Canadian Protein, Pure Fusion, Cannabis, Luxus VIP, like it goes on, the list goes on.
Yeah.
What 3 pieces of advice would you be able to share with some young entrepreneurs that you perhaps, went through or anything really?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, the number one thing is I would advise people to, work as much as you can. I think that that's kind of gotten a little bit lost. People want to fast track everything. People don't really want to work hard anymore. I think working as hard as you can, as long as you can, and as much as you can to raise enough capital so that when an opportunity presents itself, you can pull the trigger on that opportunity. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most important things. And I think a lot of people, what they don't really realize either is a lot of people probably won't get, wealthy or rich or whatever off their job, but they do have the opportunity to get wealthy and rich off of the money that they earn from their job if used the right way. So I think that's something that I think a lot of people should take into account. Give me one sec there. Can you hear me okay?
I can. The screen's black, but...
Oh, the screen's black? Okay, give me one sec. Sorry about that.
Are you going through a tunnel or something in Chicago?
Yeah. Sorry about that, man. Give me one sec here. Let me get through it. Yeah, sorry, buddy.
I should have like music or something for these.
There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay. Second thing is again, work ethic. I can't tell you enough how important it is to develop a strong work ethic. When I was growing up, maybe not even me, but I remember my parents, not a lot of people had education. And that was the I guess, differentiating factor for a lot of people is, a lot of people had the work ethic, but not a lot of people had education. So anybody that had an education kind of had like a one up on people. Well, now it's kind of flipped. Everybody and their mother has an education. And I think that the differentiating factor and the variable these days is work ethic, because a strong work ethic, I employ a lot of people that do not have educations, but they have strong work ethic. And I will take that every day of the week over an education. And then probably the third thing I would say is, talk less and listen more. I've had a lot of scenarios where I've just let people talk, even on subjects that I knew, arguably more information on them. But what ended up happening was allowing people to talk freely you might be able to pull some information from that person if you do that. What happens is a lot of times when you converse with somebody and you come off as somebody that knows something about that particular topic, or you act like you know something, that person will kind of stop talking. They'll kind of like put up this wall so that they don't want to say anything that is maybe incorrect or, presents an argument, right? So they get a little bit kind of defensive and they'll shut up. They won't continue to talk. I think that's one of the worst things that you can do, because you never know what you can learn from somebody by just shutting your mouth and listening to them. No matter who it is. It doesn't even matter if it's somebody in your industry, if it's an employee, if it's a friend, a family member, it doesn't matter. So one of the things that I feel like I pride myself on is I take everybody's criticism, I take everybody's suggestions, opinions, all that stuff. Whether they're stupid or not, it doesn't really matter. I will listen to anybody, because I never know when I can actually pull something from someone that's of value. And I also ask people their opinions all the time, I mean, Jesse right there can attest to that, right? So I mean, I'm always asking people's opinions, and I always want to hear difference of opinions. I want to hear somebody's perspective, because one perspective is not what builds a business and builds a successful one. So, to some extent, even if you have a niche business, one person's opinion and one person's perspective is not going to carry that niche business. It's not going to carry that business into success. It's not going to allow that business to thrive. So I think it's really important listening and do less talking, which doesn't really seem like that happens that much these days either.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. I think it's hard for individuals to really take in feedback from others or seek it themselves, right? Because they don't want to hear what's going wrong. They only want to hear what's going right.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a dangerous thing too, man. Like, it's, getting complacent and getting, being comfortable. Being comfortable is probably one of the, every single time I get comfortable in business, shit absolutely hits the fan with me.
Yeah.
So it never fails. And the reason why is because I'm comfortable. I'm not being proactive, but I typically get reactive when I start getting comfortable. So I made a promise to myself. I'm like, listen, I'm never going to be comfortable again. Like I try to take myself. That's one of the things with the golf course too, right? That's a very uncomfortable business to be in. So it's, just get out of your comfort zone and be getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is key.
Yeah.
Being in business for yourself, you should never be comfortable. And it's fairly difficult to become comfortable, but you might get to the point where you might get complacent, which might breed a little bit of comfort. But like I said, man, when things start to hit the fan, that's when I've typically gotten comfortable. So never again.
Awesome. No, I mean, it's cool to hear your perspective on this, especially being a very young entrepreneur from the Windsor region, built, multiple successful companies. It was, and they're all different backgrounds, right? So I think it's provided you with a wealth of knowledge in different areas and a lot of lessons in your backpack. So Dan, I appreciate you coming on, and I must say this is my first interview that technically we're in Chicago together. So
yeah, for sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
We're on our way back, but we're currently in Chicago. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for making the time, Dan.
I don't know if you can see the car back there, but we got the car back there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but yeah, towing it back right now. But awesome. I'm actually in Chicago too, looking at a couple properties too. So it was kind of two birds, one stone thing.
There you go. Very cool. I appreciate you making the time, Dan. Those watching, thanks for tuning in. And if you want to watch the recap, go to coffeewithcrainer.com, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks. Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.